वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste friends. Team Param Vedanta welcomes you all to DISHA 58, a new series of an inward journey to discover our inner strength and happiness through Bhagavad Gita. In today's session, we'll be continuing with our study of Kshetra Kshetrajna Yoga, the 13th chapter, with the verses 20 to 24. Today's main speaker is Srimati Mamata Shankar, who will explain these verses. She will also explain Jiva Ishvara Aikyam as explained in Tattva Bodha. Dr. Hegde sir will join Srimati Mamata to make the talk more interesting. After the presentation, we will have a teaching quiz on the topics covered by Srimati Mamata Shankar. Now, it's shloka time, and Srimati Meenakshi Matsudan is going to chant and explain that beautiful shloka on Shiva composed by Adi Shankara. I invite Srimati Meenakshi to chant and explain Karpura Gauram Karunavataram. Over to you, Meenakshi.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Karpura Gauram Karunavataram Samsara Saram Bhujagendraharam Sada Vasantam Hridayaravinde Bhavam Bhavani Sahitam Namami. The literal meaning of this shloka: Shiva, who is pure, white like camphor, an incarnation of compassion, the essence of worldly existence, whose garland is the king of serpents, always dwelling inside the lotus of heart, I bow down to Shiva and Shakti, who are together. A very popular mantra composed by Adi Shankara, also known as Shiva Yajur Mantra, is dedicated to Lord Shiva, who is the essence of this universe. It is a powerful mantra which protects the devotees from any kind of danger, enemies, or negativity. Lord Shiva removes our sins, and he is the bestower of good and auspiciousness. Chanting this mantra has miraculous effect on the devotees. This sacred mantra is usually chanted after Mangalarati or during puja. Let's understand this mantra in more detail. Karpura Gauram means as white as camphor, very pure. The white color of Shiva denotes detachment. White color does not absorb any wavelengths, so reflects back everything. Similarly, Shiva reflects back all experiences the world imposes on him. He remains unaffected from worldly happenings. Hence, Shiva is considered as the witness. Further, white color associated with Shiva is similar to white light, from which all other colors of spectrum manifests and then merges back. Karunavataram means full of compassion. As we know, Karuna is one of the Navarasas and Shiva is personification or incarnation of Karuna, compassion. He is the sole refuge to the downtrodden, the deceased, people suffering from various karmas, and also to the people who are denounced from the society. Many tales and legends show that Lord Shiva is compassionate and very easily pleased also. He embraces his manifestation with love and without disowning anyone. He is the first Guru, Dakshinamurti, as he imparts knowledge and moksha to everyone who pray to him. Samsara Saram means Shiva is the essence of the whole world. He is the source of all manifestations and is the embodiment of very existence. The whole cosmos is inhabited by him. Hence, we should strive to recognize the divine spark present in the whole world. Just as a spark is not separate from fire, so also manifestations are not separate from him. Bhujagendra Haram is one who has the serpent king Bhujagendra as his garland around his neck. Next slide, sir. Sada Vasantam Hridayaravinde means he who always stays in the lotus hearts of every being. It is said that the Lord resides in one's own heart in the Anahata Chakra. One just needs to worship him in his own heart. Bhavam Bhavani Sahitam Namami means to that Lord I bow down. That is, I bow down to Bhava along with Bhavani, consort of Shiva. Bhava means existence, which is Paramashiva, and Bhavani is the power to exist or the cause of existence. Thus, Karpura Gauram is a mantra which, when chanted, brings inner peace and happiness and instills calmness and tranquility in the minds of devotees. Hari Om. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Meenakshi, for giving us a very popular Shiva mantra. And all of us will certainly learn this very popular Shiva song. Sada Shiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Pariyantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. There is a maxim, a phrase in our Shastras called Shiva Simha Avalokan Nyaya. The lion is the king of the forest. In the forest, it is survival of the fittest, and every animal is very alert and watching its back because you never know when you can be a prey to some other animal. But the lion does not have to worry at all. But as you see a lion, once in a while, it very majestically looks back. Now, this is used in our Shastras as a methodology that whenever you are going ahead, the teacher always takes a pause to look back at what we have studied already to see how we can connect to what we are going ahead. We have now come to that chapter or that phase of the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Sri Krishna has sort of concluded in the 19th verse of this chapter, Iti Kshetram Tata Jnanam Gneyam Choktam Samasatah. I have briefly told you about Kshetra, Kshetrajna, we have to assume, about Jnanam and Gneyam. Now, what is left to say? Now, you will remember in the first verse of this chapter, Arjuna asks 6 questions. And the opening words is, what is this Prakriti and what is Puruṣa? In today's class, we are going to touch on these 2 topics. What is Prakriti and what is Puruṣa? If you will see, Puruṣa, which we are going to study today, is the same as Kshetrajna and Jnanam, which we had studied earlier, which is none other than the conscious principle in all of us, which we can call as Atma. And Prakriti is none other than Kshetram, the field of experience, or Anatma. So today the whole class is going to be Atma, Anatma, Viveka. Let us be clear about these 2 things. Then these extremely beautiful and poetic verses which describe Puruṣa and Prakriti, the significance can be understood. Puruṣa is the subject I, Prakriti is all that I experience, and to that we have to add my body and mind. And once this distinction between Puruṣa and Prakriti is very clear, Krishna will promise that those who have understood this, they will be able to put an end to this so-called samsara or suffering. So why do we suffer? Because we are not aware of Gneyam. We heard in the last class. What is that worth knowing? That what is worth knowing we will study in today's class as none other than Puruṣa, or none other than that conscious principle which I have said again and again. Let us pause for a moment and see. I am aware, I can see, I can hear. I am alive. What is that which makes me alive? And that is the Puruṣa Tattva or the Atma Tattva or the Gneyam or Kshetrajna. Shri Krishna says, we should remember all the time that we are a mixture of body-mind, which is Anatma, and the Atma. We normally tend to identify with the growing, graying body-mind complex. And we identify that as the real me. And that is all because of Maya. Maya is a tremendous amount of power. But through Brahma Jnanam, again and again, this distinction should be clear. I am not this body. Naham deham. Now, why is this distinction important? Because as body and mind, we know one thing for certain. Today I solve one problem. Tomorrow there is another problem waiting to come. So as body and mind, there is no permanent solution to any problem. But as Atma, there is no problem. So therefore, let us have this Viveka all the time anchor into the higher I and play the game of relativity. These terms, Puruṣa and Prakriti, are borrowed from a school of philosophy from Kapila Muni called Sankhya. Sankhya comes from the word Sankhe, means to count, because the number 24 is very important. There are 6 Astika darshanams. Darshanams means schools of philosophy, in compared to the Nastika. Nastika, 6 Nastikas, 4 Buddhist schools, the Charvakas and the Jains are the Nastikas who don't believe in the supremacy of the Vedas. Astikas who accept the Vedas. And among the Vedas are Sankhya, Vaishesha, Nyaya, Yoga of Patanjali, Purva Mimamsa, and our school being Uttara Mimamsa. Now, the big distinction between Uttara Mimamsa and all the other schools are, this is the only school of which is non-dual. That means there is only one. Whereas all the other schools give equal importance to Puruṣa and Prakriti. The Puruṣa is real, the Prakriti is also real. It is only in this school that we give a lot of importance to that conscious principle. The body, mind, and the world around is given much less importance. And that is the big difference between this school and all the other schools. And therefore, it also makes it very difficult, because it is very difficult to accept that this body, mind, and this world around is not as real. So we will see what is the importance differences between Puruṣa and Prakriti in the picture of Ardhanarishwara, which today's class Mamta is going to explain. There are a few fundamental laws of Vedanta which Swamiji wants us to remember again and again, and I reiterate. I am other than whatever I experience. This is Atma and Atma Viveka, and this distinction surely should say, I'm not this body, I'm not this mind. And second, and mind-boggling, because this is what gives us real liberation, all attributes belong to the object of experience. That means most important is my body and mind. Whatever attributes, my age, my height, weight, my bodily problems, my mental problems, all belong to the object of experience. That means they belong to the body, not to me. See the liberation. I have been there from the very beginning, if there is a beginning, and I will be there. I have lived in so many bodies, and this is just one of them. And therefore, shall I have less and less attachment to this body, because this is just one of the bodies that I have been in, and so on. As Atma, I am Nirguna. So let us keep this Viveka, because in the next chapter, we will have Gunatraya, Guna Atita. That means we have to add one more to the list of Vivekas. So there is Atma, Anatma Viveka. In this chapter, we call it Kshetra, Kshetrajna Viveka, which is the same as Drishya Viveka. This particular part of the 13th chapter is Puruṣa and Prakriti Viveka. Drik is the seer, Drishyam is what I've seen. Drik is Satyam. Everything that I see is of a lower order of reality and has a dependent existence, whereas Satya exists independently. That is the meaning of Sat and Sat. Nirguna, the real me, has no attributes. The objects that I experience is full of attributes. The real me is never an object of experience. Aprameya, where everything else that I see and experience is prameyam. With this background, let us listen to Mamta Shankar, who will be presenting a DISHA on these verses from 20 to 24. Mamta, please.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Following are the topics discussed in the verses 20 to 24 of Bhagavad Gita chapter 13. First is, what is Puruṣa and Prakriti? Second, distinction between the knowledge of Puruṣa and Prakriti. Third is, what is the cause of samsara or the birth-rebirth cycle? Fourth is the features of Purusha. And fifth one is benefit of gaining the knowledge of distinction between Purusha and Prakriti.
Mamta, I will be giving you the verses. I will just give the word meaning, but I would request you to elaborate. Verse 20 goes like this. Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Vidyanadi Ubhavapi Vikaramscha Gunamschaiva Vidhi Prakriti Sambhavan. Vidhi, Shri Krishna wants us to know both of these. Prakritim, that is nature, Purusha, that is the experiencer, both are anadi. Shri Krishna also wants us to know Vidhi, all the modifications and all the gunas are born out of Prakriti itself.
Looking at our first question, what is Purusha and Prakriti? Krishna is discussing same idea that Sir just mentioned, Kshetrajna and Kshetram with Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha means consciousness principle and Prakriti means the matter principle. Purusha Prakriti mixture alone we call Ishvara or God. In 7th chapter, the same Purusha Prakriti was presented as lower and higher nature of Ishvara or God. In chapter 13, lower nature is termed as Prakriti and the higher nature is termed as Purusha. Purusha is also referred to as Brahman and Prakriti as Maya in various contexts in Vedanta or Upanishads. Krishna says, Purusha and Prakriti are both anadi, that is without a beginning if there is a beginning. They are eternal and both are the cause of the world or universe. Purusha by itself cannot be the cause, nor the Prakriti can be the cause by itself. Purusha Prakriti mixture being anadi or beginningless existed even before the origination of the world. Purusha and Prakriti differ in the following. Purusha is Chetana Tattvam, that is consciousness principle. Nirvikara, it is changeless principle or not subject to modification. It is Nirguna, it is attributelessness. And it is attributeless. And Satya, it is Satya, that is it has independent existence or it is intrinsic. And Prakriti is Achetana Tattvam, that is it is inert or it is a basic matter. It is Savikara, it undergoes constant change. It is Saguna, has attributes like gunas, and Mithya, the existence depends on the consciousness principle. In the next slide, Krishna says, Vikaramscha gunamschaiva vidhi prakriti sambhavan. That is, universe is evolved from Prakriti Tattvam or matter. Just as a seed evolves to become a sprout, then as time goes, the sprout evolves into a plant and finally it evolves into a full-fledged tree. Similarly, the universe also goes through a gradual evolution from causal to subtle to gross state or karana to sukshma to sthula avastha. And in this matter evolution, all the products, that is vikaramscha in the verse or vikaraha, are born out, there is sambhavan in the verse, of the basic matter or Prakriti itself, otherwise also known as Maya. The 5 basic elements, that is earth, water, fire, wind, and space, are the first set of elements or products born out of Prakriti or matter. Various combinations of these elements resulted in, as per our scriptures, the 14 lokas, then the stars, the planets, mountains, plants, trees, so on. The physical body of the human beings and also their body, mind, intellect, ego are also evolved matter or Prakriti. These products are termed as objects in the universe. Not only all the objects like individual beings, their body, mind are born out of Prakriti, the properties of these objects are also born out of Prakriti alone. Just like if gold has certain combinations of other elements, then all the ornaments also will have the same proportion of the other elements. Similarly, the 3 gunas, that is sattva, rajas, tamas, that are inherent in Prakriti or Maya is passed onto the world also. Different individuals have different or varied proportion of these 3 gunas, resulting in manifestation of emotional states such as happiness, sorrow, and attachment at different levels. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. All these also belong to Prakriti and not to the eternal Purusha. Even though body and mind of individuals are product of matter and are inert, they are refined version of matter and they are able to manifest consciousness. And this is called reflected consciousness or borrowed consciousness. With reflected consciousness, they become sentient and are able to transact in the world.
We'll continue with verse 21 and see how Sri Krishna continues to give us in a very poetic way the differences between Purusha and Prakriti. The verse goes like this: Karya Karana Kartritve Hetu Prakritir Uchate Purusha Sukha Dukkhanam Bhoktritve Hetur Uchate. Prakriti Uchate. Prakriti is said to be Hetu, the cause, Karya Karana Kartritve, for the creation of the gross and the subtle bodies. The Purusha, that means the consciousness principle, is Bhoktritve, is the one who experiences Sukha Dukkhanam, all the pleasure and pains. So in a sense, Sri Krishna is trying to say, Prakriti is the cause of the creation, both gross and subtle, and Purusha, the indweller, the consciousness principle, is responsible for the experience of pleasure and pain.
Looking at our second question, what is the distinction between Purusha and Prakriti and the knowledge of the same, which is discussed in verse number 21. Krishna says, Karya Karana Kartritve, that is, everything in the universe is born out of Prakriti. Karya means Sthula Shariram or gross body, the physical body, and Karanam in this context means the mind or the subtle body or Sukshma Sharira. Kartritve means in the creation. So in the creation of the physical and subtle bodies, not only the human beings, but all the living beings, the origination of them is Prakriti. The experienced world, body, mind are all subject to change and they all are Prakriti itself. However, Krishna says, Purusha Sukha Dukkhanam Bhoktritve Heturuchyate. That means Purusha is Bhokta. Bhokta in this context is the witness, the Sakshi Chaitanya, the subject or the experiencer principle. This Purusha is the experiencer of the Prakriti consisting of body-mind complex of individuals and all the conditions or properties, the pleasant and unpleasant conditions, that is Sukha Dukkhanam in the verse of the body-mind complex, like changes to the physical body, Raga, Dvesha, Kama, Krodha, so on in the mind, which are all subject to change. And all of these are Prakriti. Therefore, in the manifested world, the experiencer, the subject I or basic consciousness principle is Purusha. That which is ever the subject of experience and never the object of experience, that I am the Purusha. Purusha is the subject witness of the world, body, mind, and Prakriti is the experienced world, body, and mind, and the subject Purusha is never objectifiable. Just like, for example, every photograph is the proof for the existence of camera, even though camera is not present in the photograph. Similarly, in the visible worldly objects, there is always a Purusha that is not objectifiable and is always the witness, the subject.
We proceed to verse 22. Shri Krishna continues. Purusha Prakriti Shto hi bhungte Prakritir Jan Gunan Karanam Gunasangosya Sadasad Yoni Janmasu, which means Prakritistaha, residing in the Prakriti, the Purusha bhungte experiences Gunan Prakriti Jan, those gunas which are born out of Prakriti. Gunasangaha, and because of the attachment to the gunas, that is the cause, asya sadasad yoni janmasu. This is the cause of birth into superior or inferior wombs. Now let us see this picture again. Mamta is going to explain it. So the Purusha residing in the Prakriti now becomes identified with all the body mind, exactly what is happening to us, identifies with all the gunas of the Prakriti, develops a certain attachment. And that is because of these attachments, we have this various karmas born and therefore leading to superior and inferior births. Mamata, please.
Now moving on to our third question. What is the cause of samsara or birth-rebirth cycle, which is explained in this verse 22? Krishna says, Puruṣa prakritiṣṭho hi bhunte prakritijan guṇān. The actual or technical meaning of bhunte is experiences. However, it should be understood as one that witnesses or illumines whatever happens to the body-mind complex, which is the Puruṣa. Understanding the scenario with an example, when we say the sun illumines the earth, sun does not do the action of illuminating. The sun just exists. In the presence of the sun, whatever objects fall within the range, those objects get illumined. Before the object arrives, sun is the same. After the objects arrive, sun is the same. Similarly, Puruṣa, like the sun, just exists always. It just is. And in the presence of the Puruṣa or consciousness principle, body gets experienced or illumined or becomes aware. And therefore we say Puruṣa bhunte. That is consciousness principle experiences. That is, experiences means changelessly witnesses, actionlessly witnesses. In the next slide, Puruṣa prakritiṣṭha means Puruṣa, that is consciousness principle enclosed within the body-mind complex, or in this context should be understood as consciousness principle identifying with body-mind. That means identifying with reflected consciousness. Just like the enclosed space is usable as a room and just like the enclosed space is useful as a room and usable, similarly the I or consciousness principle enclosed within body-mind, that means identifying with reflected consciousness, experiences all the products or attributes of Prakriti. That is, prakritijan guṇāh, in the form of old age, sickness, so on, and thoughts like pleasure, pain, raga, dvesha, kama, so on. The result of this is the cycle of joy and sorrow continues from one action to another action and from one experience to another experience. In the next slide, therefore, Krishna says, Guna Sangaha Eva. That means consciousness principle, identifying with body-mind, or an individual identifying with reflected consciousness gets attached to, that is Sangaha in the verse, the attributes or the gunas of body-mind. In other words, the experiences, the attributes of body-mind, and that is the cause of samsara. There is so always a sense of doership in the actions performed and also reaping results of actions due to body-mind identification, which results in karma phalam, and this is the cause of samsara chakra. That is karanam sadasad yoni janmasu in the verse. Sadasad yoni janma means cycle of birth and rebirth or samsara chakra. Sad yoni means superior body and asat yoni means inferior body. Thus, identification of I, the Puruṣa, with body-mind complex results in punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, taking higher births of devas, which could signify in this context those with more punyam and living beings, or taking lower birth of animals, plants, and someone with demon-like qualities, depending on the karma plan.
We now come to verse 23, which is a Mahavakya. Thanks to a guru or acharya, he introduces that all of us are not ordinary, and we need to discover that although I look ordinary, there is something of the extraordinary in me. And let us see what this beautiful Mahavakya says. Upadrashtanumanta cha Bharta Bhokta Maheshwara Paramatmeti Chapyukto Dehesmin Puruṣa Paraha. Now, just knowing the meaning of these words suddenly elevates your old status. The Supreme Puruṣa, Asmin Dehe, Ukte Iti, is said to be. That means the supreme Puruṣa, which we will learn in the 15th chapter as Purushottama, is there within all of us as what? Upadrishta, the very proximate witness. Anumanta, the one who allows things to happen. Bharta, the sustainer. Bhokta, the experiencer. The Maheshwara, the great Lord. Apicha Paramatma, who's none other than the Supreme Lord. What a wonderful exclamation that this consciousness principle is described in so many words as being extraordinary. And it is understanding of these words that gives us liberation. Mamta, please.
In the next question, number 4, the description of Puruṣa is the highlight of the verse and also the Mahavakya being highlighted here, as Sir just mentioned. Krishna says, Asmin Dehe Puruṣaha. That is, the Puruṣa or consciousness principle enclosed in every individual living being, body and mind, is Paraha, Upadrishta, Anumanta, Bharta, and Bhokta. That is, let us look at the features used to describe Puruṣa. First one is Paraha, means enclosed consciousness within the body container extends beyond the body. It is like we say space is within the, say, a hall or a room. Then we extend this statement further to say space is in and outside the hall. Finally, we say hall is there within an enclosed space. In fact, hall and every object in the world is within an enclosed space. That is, space is limitless or indivisible. Extending the same analogy to consciousness principle, we say consciousness is enclosed within the body. Then we extend it to saying C extends, that is, consciousness extends beyond the body. And finally, all beings or the body and mind of all the beings are in the consciousness itself. So the question could be asked, where is consciousness located? And the answer to this question could be in the form of question itself. Where is consciousness not located? So Paraha means free from limitations. And the second feature is Upadrishta. Upadrishta. That is, Krishna says Atma or consciousness principle is a witness. Upadrishta, intimately pervading the body-mind complex and illuminating the body-mind complex. Swamiji explains this with an analogy. That is, light from the source, say a bulb, which is far away from where the light is falling, illumines the hand by pervading the hand. Light that is closest to the hand, also which can be known as proximate illuminator, is pervading and illuminating the hand and making it visible. Similarly, Puruṣa also is the closest witness, pervading the body and enabling to experience the world. Third feature is Anumanta, one who blesses the activities or a facilitator of the body-mind or everything, as a matter of fact, in the Prakriti. Just as in the example of electricity, the presence of electricity enables the mic to perform its job of amplification. Fourth is Bharta, which means one who lends existence, the sustainer, because Puruṣa, the consciousness alone, is Satyam, having independent existence. Fifth is Bhokta. The Puruṣa, that is I, the consciousness principle, is the illuminator of the body-mind complex and is not directly involved with experiences of body-mind like the pain, pleasure, old age, so on. When an individual or an ignorant one identifies with body-mind, the same Puruṣa appears as though is the experiencer or as though Bhokta of the attributes associated with the body and mind. Looking at an example, when we say I am angry, anger is the attribute of the mind or Prakriti. From ignorant person point of view, when we say I am angry, I, the Puruṣa, identifies with the mind and appears as though Bhokta or seemingly Bhokta, that is, experiencer of the anger, and gets associated with the outcome, like disturbed mind or agitated mind. In the next slide, after describing the consciousness principle with its features such as sustainer, facilitator, witness, limitless, and seemingly experiencer. Krishna says the real nature of Purusha is Maheshwaraha, which means free from all the attributes, and it is a boundless entity. And for a wise person or Gnani, Purusha is Maheshwaraha. When we identify with Prakriti or body mind and its attributes as well, like name, age, emotional behavior, so on, we are identifying with reflected consciousness or borrowed consciousness. This attributed I or Purusha is Jivatma. But when we learn to separate ourselves from Prakriti and its attributes, in other words, understand that the attributed I belong to Prakriti alone, and I am not that. I am consciousness principle. At that time, I, the Jivatma, is one with Paramatma. That is Paramatma iti uktaha in the verse. This statement, where the very same Jivatma is none other than Paramatma, is Mahavakya. So, this is a Mahavakya verse, as oneness of Jivatma and Paramatma is highlighted. We also understand from this that Jivatma and Paramatma are different contextual names used for the same Purusha, I, the consciousness principle.
Thanks, Mamata, for a very nice explanation. This real understanding is a relief from samsara. So in this concluding verse, which is verse 24, Sri Krishna highlights the importance of knowing that I am the Purusha within this body. And this is how the verse goes. Ya evam neti purusham prakritim cha gunai saha sarvata vartamanopi nasa bhuyo abhijayate. What does it mean? Sa ya, that person, evam veti, who knows, purusham cha prakriti, who knows that within himself he is a mixture of both body-mind complex. Sa gunai, that means endowed with all these gunas. And if you are able to see the higher me and the lower me, na abhijayate, is not born, bhuya again, sarvata api, in whatever manner vartamana he lives. So Sri Krishna is highlighting the importance of knowing the Purusha, Prakriti, Veda, and to be able to claim, I am the Purusha. Mamta, please.
So in the verse 24, the last question of ours, which is, what are the benefits of gaining the knowledge of Prakriti and Purusha? Krishna talks about it here. Krishna says, Ya evam vetti. An individual who has a clear knowledge that I am a mixture of Prakriti and Purusha, which means Prakriti is Chetana Tattvam, Nirvikara, Nirguna, Satya, and Purusha is Chetana Tattvam, Nirvikara, Nirguna, Satya, and Prakriti is Achetana Tattvam, Savikara, Saguna, and Mithya. The separation of the two, that is Purusha and Prakriti, is only cognitive and not an external event. To understand it better with the hand example, first we are only seeing the hand. Then we are told there is an invisible light principle pervading the hand, which enables us to see the hand. So even though we are seeing only the hand, it involves two things, that is hand and the invisible light. Perceiving invisible light along with the visible hand is only cognitive and not an external or visible event as far as the light is concerned. Similarly, a clear distinction between Purusha and Prakriti, or consciousness principle and body-mind complex, is only cognitive and not visible to the world. And a wise person or Gnani is aware of this distinction. In the next slide, this distinction makes them understand that the physical attributes like old age, young, illness, health, fat, lean, so on belong to the body, and subtle attributes like emotional behaviors such as desire, anger, happiness, sad, so on belong to the mind, which are objects, and I am not that body and mind. I am the Purusha, the consciousness that is attributeless and ever free. They continue to exist or perform their duties until Prarabdha is exhausted, and with no sense of doership or ego, no new karma is generated. In the next slide, to understand this better, let us quickly take a look at the law of karma in Vedanta. It says that each of us are associated with three types of karmas. The sanchita karmas are the entire accumulated karma phalams. Present life karma phalams or prarabdha karmas are those that are fructified to be exhausted in our present life. Future karma phalams or agami karmas are those that will be generated due to the result of actions in the present life with a sense of doership or identifying with body, mind, and ego. Vedanta says, so long as sanchita karma exists for an individual, there is rebirth. In each birth, portion of sanchita karma is fructified in the form of prarabdha karma so that it can be exhausted. In the process, new karmas done with a sense of doership result in agami karmas, which get added to our sanchita karma, and the cycle of birth or rebirth goes on indefinitely. This is the case of an ignorant person who identifies with body, mind, and reflected consciousness and is a jivatma. In the next slide, Krishna says a wise person or a gnani who has clearly understood the differences between Puruṣa and Prakriti has trained their mind to identify with the original consciousness, that is Puruṣa, with the practice of Gnana Yoga, which involves Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. Being fully aware that for transactional purpose only, they have to identify with Prakriti or the body mind. Krishna says, Sarvata Vartamanopi, one who lives by this clear distinction between Puruṣa and Prakriti. That is, I am the original consciousness which is eternal and that is my very true nature. I use the Prakriti or body-mind complex as medium to transact in the world. Such a person is liberated while living. For that Jnani, Sanchita karma is destroyed, no fresh karmas generated, as there is no sense of doership which comes from body-mind identification. The Jnanis continue to exist or perform their duties until Prarabdha is exhausted, after which there is no rebirth. So, no external change is required in terms of whatever they have been doing in the world. The Gnani can continue to perform their duties just like King Janaka continued to rule his kingdom even though he had achieved liberation. Only an inner transformation is required, that is, discovering the true self, which is our essential nature. Krishna says, Sa bhuyo na abhijayate, which means a wise man or gnani is free from cycle of birth and rebirth. Birth, rebirth involves body and mind, which belongs to Prakriti. As the wise one has identified with Puruṣa, which is birthless, there is no question of birth or rebirth as per the law of karma. Through this wisdom, Gnani knows and claims that I was liberated, I am liberated, and I will ever be liberated. Krishna concludes the Puruṣa and Prakriti discussion with this verse number 24. So now let us look at few important takeaway messages from these verses which we learned so far. First one, Puruṣa is consciousness principle or original consciousness. Prakriti is matter. Body, mind, and attributes of body, mind, like emotions and modifications to the body, belong to Prakriti. Second, Puruṣa and Prakriti are Anadi and the cause of the creation. Third, Puruṣa is Chetana Tattvam, Nirvikara, Nirguna, Satya, limitless, sustainer, witness, facilitator, and seemingly Bhokta. Fourth, Puruṣa, Prakriti is Savikara, Achetana, Saguna, and Mithya. An individual's I or Puruṣa identifying with body-mind complex is reflected consciousness and is known as Jivatma. An individual identifying with I or Puruṣa and use body-mind complex as a medium to transact. In that scenario, Jivatma is one with Paramatma or original consciousness. Identifying with Jivatma is the cause of Samsara Chakram. Identifying with original consciousness or Paramatma is liberation. We will now summarize the Tattvabodha topic of Jiva Ishvara Aikya and means to gain Aikyam knowledge as follows. Next slide, sir. Main theme of Vedantic teaching is Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam. Atma, the original consciousness, is only ekam, that is only one. Aikyam means oneness. Now let us look at what it means for Jivatma and Paramatma. When Atma, the original consciousness or consciousness principle, is functioning through individual matter called Shariratrayam, that is individual causal, subtle, gross body, also referred to as body-mind complex, then the consciousness is reflected consciousness or borrowed consciousness and is called Jivatma. When the same consciousness is functioning behind total matter or Prapanchatrayam, then the very same Atma is called Paramatma. As far as Atma is concerned, there is only one Atma, which is neither called Jivatma nor Paramatma. The same one Atma functioning through Anatma get the two names Jivatma and Paramatma. One Atma appears as many Jivatmas at individual level and Paramatma at the total level. That means Anatma medium is a requirement for Jivatma and Paramatma to function. In the next slide, this leads us to learn more about Anatma and the relationship between Atma and Anatma. Anatma is basic matter principle. The threefold body, mind, and all their conditions, body conditions like old age, sickness, so on, and mind conditions like emotional behavior, happy, anger, desire, so on, of an individual is called Anatma. In short, anything that can be experienced is Anatma. In the next slide, the relationship between Atma and Anatma, that is spirit and matter, as per Vedanta, is supporter-supported relationship. This means that matter, which is Anatma, depends on consciousness to prove its very existence as well as for its functioning in the world. Whereas consciousness does not depend upon matter for its existence. Therefore, the scriptures point out that consciousness or Atma has independent existence and is Satyam or real, and matter or Anatma has dependent existence and is Mithyam or false. Let us look at an example of clay and pot to understand it better. Clay exists independent of pot, that even if the pot is broken, the clay can continue to exist, whereas the pot cannot exist independent of clay. Therefore, clay is called Satyam and pot is called Mithyam. Similarly, wood is called Satyam and furniture made of wood is called Mithyam. Gold is Satyam and ornaments made of gold are called Mithyam. In the next slide, so what is the essence of Vedanta, or what is the Vedanta Sara? Paramatma is Satyam or real. Anatma is Mithyam or false. Jivatma is identical with Paramatma or oneness of Jivatma and Paramatma or Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam. In the next slide, now let us look at the means to gain this Aikyam knowledge. The means to gain the knowledge of Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam is Gnana Yoga, presented in 3 stages. First is Shravanam, means listening to the teachings with the help of a guru or teacher. Second is Mananam, means reflection done independently and removal of doubts at the intellectual level with the help of a teacher. That is doubt-free conviction of the knowledge. Third is Nididhyasanam, means contemplation, done all by ourselves to remove emotional weakness or habitual behaviors, that is applying the knowledge gained during Shravanam and Mananam. Just like assimilated food alone nourishes us, similarly assimilated knowledge alone gives the benefit of the knowledge. That means any amount of Vedantic study is of no use unless it is assimilated through Mananam and Nididhyasanam. Krishna echoes this message in Bhagavad Gita all through. Finally, one who has assimilated the knowledge and anchored in the knowledge of Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam is called Jnana-nishtha. Thank you, sir. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Mamta. That was a full justice to one of the most beautiful verses in the Bhagavad Gita, the Prakriti Puruṣa distinction, the set of 5 verses in the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, giving us a very clear idea that we need to inculcate this knowledge. Prakriti is the body-mind, and of course, everything else that we experience. And we always have to see that I am the Puruṣa indweller within the Prakriti, and this Puruṣa within me is not something ordinary. It is Kshetrajnam itself. I am of a higher order of reality. I have lived in so many bodies, and therefore anything that happens to this body, to this mind, and to the world around me cannot really affect me. And if this understanding is clear, then I am free from samsara. That is the whole objective of all Vedanta and the whole Bhagavad Gita. We will have a teaching quiz conducted by Vani Bhaskar to see how we have understood these set of verses. Vani, please.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. So now we have a teaching quiz covering whatever Mamata Shankar explains so beautifully. Verse number 20. Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Vidyanadi Vubhavapi Vikaransha Guṇansha Chaiva Vidya Prakriti Sambhavan. So here, name 2 key aspects highlighted in this verse. I request any one of you to unmute and please answer the questions.
Here, the 2 aspects, as we can see from the verse and also as per the explanation, is that both Prakriti and Puruṣa are Anadi, that
Yes.
means beginningless.
True.
And the 3 gunas originated from the Prakriti.
Yeah. So Prakriti originates the 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, and all the transformations of the body. Next question. Name any 4 differences between Puruṣa and Prakriti.
Yeah, this is Puruṣa is Chetana, Tattvam, Nirvikara, Nirguna, and Satya, whereas Prakriti is Achetana, Savikara, that is subject to changes, and Saguna with attributes, and then Nitya.
Yeah. So Chetana Tattvam is consciousness, Nirvikara is changeless, Nirguna is attributeless, and Satyam is, it has an independent existence, whereas Prakriti has all the opposites. That's Achetana Tattvam, matter, Savikara is subject to change, Saguna is with attributes, and Mithya is, it has borrowed existence. The next question.
The body and mind belongs to the options you are given, Puruṣa, Prakriti, both of them, neither of them. It's clearly Prakriti.
Yeah, thank you. Next one, fill in the blanks. Dash is said to be the cause in the creation of the physical and subtle bodies. And while
This is the Prakriti.
Yeah. And while Dash is said to be the witness of the experience of the pleasures and pains of Prakriti.
Yeah, this is Puruṣa.
Puruṣa. This is from the 21st verse, which says, Karya Karana Kartrutve Hetu Prakriti Ruchyate Puruṣa Sukha Dukkhana Bhuktrutve Hetu Ruchyate. Okay, thank you so much. Next one. Based on the next 22nd verse, Puruṣa Prakritistohi Bhunkte Prakritijan Gunan Karanam Guna Sangosya Sadasadyo Nijan Masu. So who witnesses the gunas born out of Prakriti as a Sakshi?
Witness is the Puruṣa, and what causes birth in superior and inferior wombs is the Guna Sangha.
Guna Sangha. Yeah, attachment to the gunas. Next one. Say true or false. When the consciousness is enclosed by body and mind, Puruṣa becomes subject and Prakriti becomes object. True or false?
True, true.
Yes. Puruṣa and Prakriti are 2 basic principles which existed even before the origination of the world.
True.
Yeah, so it is called Anadi. God or Ishvara is only Puruṣa. That is
False. False is a mixture of Purusha and Prakriti.
yeah. In the evolution of creation, primary role is played by Prakriti.
Yeah, it's true.
True. My own body-mind complex is an evolution of Purusha.
False. Clearly false.
Prakriti is subject to modification.
Yes, true.
Purusha is the experiencer principle, the Sakshi Chaitanya.
True.
Universe evolves out of Prakriti Tattvam.
True.
The next question is from verse 23. Upadrashtan manta cha bhartra bhokta maheshwaraha paramatmeti chapyuktaha dehesmin purusha paraha. So name the features of Purusha highlighted by Lord Krishna in this verse.
Yeah, it is Upadrashta, Para, Anumanta, Bharta, Maheshwara.
Can you tell the meaning of para and
Para is without limitations.
yeah,
Upadrashta is who pervades and illuminates the body-mind complex.
Yeah.
Anumanta is who blesses all the activities without discrimination, like the way Mamta explained, the sun shines across all the objects without any discrimination. Bharta, that which lends existence, and Maheshwara, free or Swatantra.
Yeah. Is there a Mahavakya embedded in this verse?
Yeah, it is there. We see that, like, Para Purushaha Asmin Dehe Ukti iti. Like, the Para Purusha, the Purusha Tattva is there within this body. That's what it says. And that indicates the Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam.
So it's called the Mahavakya. And verse 24. Ye evam veti purusham prakritin chai gunai saha sarvata vartamanopi nasa bhuyo bijayate. So here in this verse, according to this, who is the one who does not have a punarjanma?
Yeah, I think today's session brought this out very beautifully. Like one who knows Prakriti and Purusha in a right way does not have rebirth.
Yeah. Now we'll go to Tattva Bodha. The questions is based on the topic Jiva, Ishvara, Aikyam and means of acquiring knowledge. Ekam means
only one.
And Aikyam is?
Oneness.
Yeah. Choose the correct answer. When the consciousness or Chaitanyam is functioning through individual matter called Shariratrayam, it is the name?
Jivatma. Clearly it is Jivatma because through the Shariratrayam.
Shariratrayam. And when the very same consciousness is functioning behind the total matter, that is Prapanchatrayam, then the very same Atma is called?
Paramatma.
True. State true or false. Matter depends upon consciousness to prove its existence as well as for its functioning.
True.
Consciousness does not depend upon matter for its existence.
False.
Yes. Is Jivatma Satyam or Mithya? Answer is Satyam because Jivatma is identical with Paramatma because Paramatma is Satyam and it follows that Jivatma is also Satyam. And this is the essence of Vedanta where it says Jivatma and Paramatma Aikyam. I hope it's clear.
Yeah, thank you.
Next one. Having seen that Jivatma is identical with Paramatma, which is the Vedanta Sara, what is the means through which we can get this knowledge?
It's Gnana Yoga consisting of Shravana, Mananam and Nididhyasana.
Yeah. So the next question is, in the path of Gnana Yoga, dash is done with the help of the teacher.
Sir, I think we'll have to, Vani, you're looking at a previous draft and reading those questions.
Oh my
it's
God.
a wrong question. I have sent you the new file. Even the other question also, you made a mistake.
Oh, I'm sorry then. Oh, you sent me another one, huh?
You read from the screen, no? You see the screen and read the questions.
Okay.
That is better. You won't make a mistake that way.
Even previous two questions are also wrongly asked.
Shall we do
Since there is an interruption, can we go back and do it?
Yeah.
This which question? Jivatma, is it Satya or Mithya?
That
Yes,
is
sir.
what-
No, sir, the true or false, I had made it as false because there were too many truths. This consciousness depends upon matter for existence. It
All
was
that
doesn't
came-
depend, she had asked.
It came correct, no?
No, sir, it was a doesn't depend. I said false. I said true.
Doesn't
I should have said
depend,
true if it doesn't depend.
No, but
Sir,
it
the
works with depends.
Phrasing of the
It
the question, she made a mistake.
It's
Okay.
okay, like if it will just pass through, we can at least start from the other one.
We will
Okay.
start from here. Now, I just want this. Is Jivatma Satyam or Mithya? Shall we skip this question? Because Jivatma, when you say Jiva Bhava, there is a sense of limitation because Jivatma is a mixture, no?
Yeah.
It
Yes.
is Atma and Paramatma. So you have to give a lot of explanation as Jivatma, Satya and Mithya because if you identify with the body mind, it is Mithya. If you identify with the Atma, it is Satya. So it can be, you know, these things, we'll skip this
Maybe-
question.
Yeah, we'll skip this question, sir.
We'll go to these questions. We'll start from here now. The recording can start now.
Yeah. Jivatma is identical with Paramatma, is Vedanta Sara. And what is the means through which we can get this knowledge?
It's Gnana Yoga, which consists of Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana.
Yes. Next one, state true or false. Shravanam does not need the help of a teacher.
It's false. Shravanam, teacher is a very important component of Shravanam.
Yes. Mananam is done both with the help of teacher and
Yeah, true, because Mananam has, clearing the doubts, contemplation, which is done by the student, and clearing of the doubts, it's done by the teacher. So both are needed.
yeah. Next one. Nididhyasanam cannot be done independently and needs the teacher.
This is false because Nididhyasanam can be done only by the student.
By the student, that is true. Next one. Any amount of study will be of no use unless it is assimilated through through Mananam and Nididhyasanam.
True.
Yeah. Next question. What is the phalam of the knowledge? What is the phalam of the knowledge one gets through Gnana Yoga?
It's Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti.
Yes. Next one. What are the benefits of Jivan Mukti?
It is Swatantram, Purnatvam, and Samatvam.
Yeah. Swatantram is the presence and absence of things and beings will not affect me emotionally. Purnatvam is fullness and completeness. Samatvam is emotional strength to face ups and downs of life. How does Gnanam give the benefit of Videha Mukti?
The scriptures say that Gnanam, stops the Punarjanma because the karma is destroyed.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Srimati Vani and Dr. Vasumati for an interesting quiz. Thank you, Srimati Mamta and Dr. Egde sir for a wonderful session. My thanks are also due to my friends for your focused participation. Let us log in for verse by verse Gita session 147 on 12th May 2023 for a class on Mundak Upanishad. Please log in at 6:45 p.m. sharp Friday. Thank you. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you.